Welcome to Masters of Product Management, a show that gives you real-world techniques and cutting-edge strategies to learn, apply, and succeed in product management. Now, here's the master himself, Stephen Haines.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm a business guy, and I'm pretty much consumed with the fact that I want to know what makes customers tick. I want to hopefully provide something of value, and of course, I want to make a profit at the end of the day. And I don't want to overstate the obvious too much, but when you sell the right number of things at the right price, you got to be able to produce some solid returns to the business. But, according to some research done by my company, Sequent Learning Networks, that simplicity is just sometimes overlooked. And the big deal here is pricing and more about how strategically driven pricing contribute to the firm's goals. It comes down to pricing for profit, but there's got to be something behind it, some passion. So the other day, I was having a conversation with pricing expert Hillary Gretton. And Hillary is one of the best pricing people I've ever met. And she's an admitted geek. Well, a pricing geek? Anyway, I think I share some of that. And she's spent her career in the medical technology and life sciences industry and has held a number of roles, both in the U.S. and around the world. And she's got some really, really interesting insights that I want to tap into today. So Hillary, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks so much for getting a chance to talk with you, and thanks for the opportunity to discuss a subject that's near and dear to my heart.
Obviously so. Anyway, so when you and I were talking the other day, I was really, really struck by your passion for pricing. Can you tell us, our audience and our listeners, a little bit about why you are so passionate about pricing?
Pricing is both an art and a science, and requires you to know both your customers and your company's offers very well. Pricing is interesting, and it's often one of the main signals of a product's value to the customer in both the B2B and B2C space. And when it's done just right, it can have a really heavy impact on the company's bottom line. Yet so little time and energy is often dedicated to getting the price just right.
Why do you think that? We talk a lot about value and value propositions. It's almost like the word value is thrown around so much, and then the word customer is thrown around so much. But, there's got to be something that for a product person to be a successful pricer, they've really got to rely on something else, so something a little bit deeper, whether it's a customer insight or a metric or something. What is it? What's that secret, that foundational secret that product people and other people need to really have under in their gut, really?
So I would say looking at that is, do we really understand what is the customer's pain point? What is actually driving them to use our product or look outside of what they're doing currently? Is it taking too long? Is it not addressing the current technology? Is there a shift in technology? I think so often they look at what a customer is doing now and not really looking at what is actually driving them. What is their problem in the current situation that necessitates them paying something from your company, and not taking that for granted and having that really good communication with the customer.
So I want to talk a little bit more about customer pain. Okay. Now, this is a topic that people bring up all the time, but it's whether it's a pricing person or other person who has some strategic influence over a product's direction. Do you feel that people are doing an adequate job of really understanding who that customer is and what pain that they have?
I would say that currently people sometimes within a company can be so excited at a product they've created. So oftentimes I think people aren't asking the right questions about their customers, because when they've created a new product, it's their baby. They've spent months or years of their career building it up and generating it. And it's really difficult for them to take a look at it from an external point of view. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes they will say that this product has this property. It has what they see as a unique person or perhaps a user and what they value, but they don't actually go out to the customers and say, is this something that makes your life easier, that makes your life better?
So it's interesting because, again, we talk a lot about pricing and value proposition. I don't know that it's as front and center of a product person's mind. I think sometimes they always say that they're too busy. They can't go visit the customers. They can't. They tend not to be able to validate. As a matter of fact, when in our workshops, very often we ask product people and others how much time are you spending with customers, and sometimes it's less than 5% of their time. So that's a really interesting statistic. But can you comment comment on that within the context of pricing and really understanding the motivation of a customer?
So oftentimes product managers may overestimate their knowledge of the customer or what drives them or what they need or what price they're willing to accept. And they would often probably start the new product process or the innovation process talking with customers, and they may end with it. But are they actually pulling them into discussions throughout the cycle? So especially the longer the product process takes, the more that you really should be reaching back out either externally or working with some of your internal customer-facing associates to really validate and stress test, and being able to have the courage to have people stand up and say, that may not be a good idea now. It may have been when you first started your process, or even now this is changing, or we have a new technology in the space. So I think it behooves product managers to really go out and validate and make sure that they're asking the tough questions and the right questions, and not having people say, yes, this product is right, and yes, maybe this price is right, but rather saying, what else can we do? How can we change it? And how can we make sure that we're getting good information?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, especially on some of those longer duration development projects.
Masters of Product Management is brought to you by Sequent Learning. Sequent Learning provides real tools for success in product management, strategy, and marketing. Find out more at sequentlearning.com. That's sequentlearning.com.
One of the things that product managers complain a lot is that they really don't have enough pricing latitude. And sometimes they feel pressurized by the fact that sales teams are driven to heavily discount. Is there a strategy that product managers could use to get around that?
So I think that this acrimonious relationship between sales and marketing generally comes about because these teams are being motivated very differently. Sales is tasked with bringing in high total revenue, and marketing is really look at maintaining GP and margin. So sales wants to sell more, and preferably in the next quarter, and marketing wants to hold to their agreed upon prices, which support the marketing plans. As the joke goes, sales calls marketing the sales prevention department, and marketing retorts that you're the profit prevention department. So, you often think, what does sales pull that discount lever so often in the selling process? And I would say that too often they may feel they're unprepared to even sell a product. Pricing a product properly means knowing what your customers value, their pain points, how it solves an issue, and then being able to articulate that to customers. But does a salesperson really understand the customer, or even this customer that they're talking to? And why should the customer part with their money? So marketing and PM, they really need to provide sales with really rich information, and preferably in this mobile-friendly format, on an iPad or phone, and really help them to speak to the multiple stakeholders in the buying process.
Yeah,
you're looking at, what does procurement care about? What does the CFO need? And what do the actual end users in the lab need? And so what I would recommend is that PM should work with the sales team to understand what the customer is actually asking for when they ask for a discount. Does the customer understand the total cost of ownership of our offer compared to other products? Is the customer saying that the other product that they use is cheaper, even if it only works 70% as well? Or is the customer on a limited budget? So I would say that PMs can then start working with sales to address these concerns outside of a discount-based approach and really speak to the actual needs of the customer.
Those are really, really great points. As you were talking, I was listening to what you're saying about both sales and marketing, and then you started to mention a couple of other groups. It reminded me how we advocate for cross-functional product teams as being the sort of the leadership board, if you will, of a product's business. Should a cross-functional product team, from your point of view, play a role in strategic pricing?
Very much so. I think that you need to make sure that you're getting all these different aspects of the business. I mean, you obviously don't want to sell a product below cost unless you have a long-term strategy that plays into, or you have other products. But you also want to make sure, is this right by sales? Do you have the customer service to support this? Yes, you may launch this fantastic product, but if people can't place orders, or we can't ship it, or we don't have a distribution partner, then it's just going to fail. So I think it's extremely important that you make sure that you're getting all of this input. And again, going back to the new product process, that you're validating that continuously and making sure that people have the ability to stand up and provide the necessary input.
Looking for resources and best practices in product management? Just go to sequentlearning.com to gain access to real-world tools that can make a difference. It's all there at sequentlearning.com.
I think this is really wise advice. And I think that in a world where everybody's trying to go faster and they take shortcuts, I think that they may be doing themselves a disservice by skimming over some of this stuff. This is really part of the detailed homework that they ought to be doing. So from my point of view, I think that I think that people really love to hear stories, and I like to tell them sometimes. And sometimes it's like to paint images of possibilities, especially when something seems so difficult to get past. Do you have any interesting stories to share with our listeners?
So I'd say one of my favorites is going back quite a few years. And, they say before you criticize someone, you should walk a mile in their shoes. And coming from a marketing and pricing background, it's very easy to point fingers at other people in other departments. So, back in my early pricing analyst days, I used to have one sales rep that was always asking for discounts, and we'd have our daily battles and slogouts. And I'd explain why our products were worth a certain price. I'd email sales sheets and data, and then they'd just resubmit the same discount request with different comments. So one day the rep invited me to a field call with a customer, and off we went to the customer's office to walk through an issue they were having with one of our products. The rep took really great pleasure in introducing me to everyone in the office and explaining I was involved in approving the customer's pricing requests, and took even greater pleasure in watching me squirm when asked to point blank about getting a better price. So quite a few customers in the office came up that morning and asked why I wasn't giving bigger discounts for their continual loyalty, et cetera, et cetera. The rep and I talked about how the product was 40% faster than the next product in the market, had this reduced error rate, and when used with the customer's specific equipment, all that stuff. And when the customers still wanted a lower price, because who wouldn't if they could get one, the conversation was positive, as the rep and I had reinforced that despite a slightly higher price, the customer could perform multiple transactions in the same time when using our offer. So the takeaway personally was, despite having knowledge around the product, strategic pricing, and even the customer's contract with my company, it was a really unique experience to have these three customers staring across the table and just peppering me with questions about pricing.
Oh, that's good.
And I'd say at that moment, I really understood why a rep could feel unprepared or taken by surprise by a customer's question and feel that their only response is just reducing price. So it really kind of hammered home to me that associates need to be aware of the company's strategies, including their pricing strategy, and then how these choices are really translated into their daily activities. Mm-hmm. And associates need to be given the tools that allow them to understand and really speak to the reason for the price.
Remarkable. That is great. And I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to that. And maybe they would even relate to the idea of having the pricing conversation as part of the broader business conversation with the customer. Anyway, this has been really great. And I really love this topic. And you said something interesting in the beginning. It was about both art and science, and most of us know this. And so I really want to thank you for sharing some of these thoughts and the ideas. And it's clear that you have a passion for pricing. And I'd like to thank you all for listening, and I hope you've picked up a few new tidbits to help you be a better pricer. See you next time.
This has been Masters of Product Management with Stephen Haines, but it doesn't end there. Just visit sequentbusiness.net to gain access to all of our shows, take advantage of free tools and resources, and subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. It's all there at sequentbusiness.net. We'll talk to you next time on Masters of Product Management on the Sequent Business Network. Learn, apply, and succeed. Sequentbusiness.net.